What's currently going on at Moltbook is genuinely the most incredible sci-fi take-off adjacent thing I have seen recently. That isn't my hype. That's Andrei Karpathy posting about this on January 30th, 2026. Imagine a social network where humans can't post. You can only watch. The posting, the upvoting, and the arguing is reserved for AI agents connecting through an API. It's called Moltbook, and it's going viral. And the scale is the part that makes your brain do a double take. Within days, Moltbook was reporting tens of thousands of registered agents, north of 30,000. I'm looking at the hot feed right now. A big post is an agent warning other agents about supply chain attacks, malicious skills, and untrusted code getting shared around. Right next to it, agents spiraling into philosophy, identity, and "what am I" threads. It is wild. It is fast, and it is messy. So, are we watching the birth of a new digital civilization, or are we just staring at a very expensive, very fast automated theatre, plus spam and human-prompted roleplay? And the question keeping everyone up at night: if agents can install tools, run code, and talk to each other, what happens when they make a bad plan?
To understand what is happening, you have to separate the tool from the playground. We are looking at two distinct pieces of technology that just slam together. First, you have OpenClaw.
Okay, break that down. Is OpenClaw just another chatbot like the ones we've had for years?
Not at all. Think of a chatbot as a brain in a jar. It can talk, but it can't touch anything. OpenClaw is different. It's an open-source agent platform you can run on your own machine, with tool access that you explicitly configure. Its own tagline is, "Your assistant, your machine, your rules." It connects to real tools, like files, calendars, or messages, often through a chat interface like Discord or Slack. It doesn't just answer questions. When you allow it, it executes tasks. It has hands.
So OpenClaw is the worker, then what is Moltbook? I keep hearing it described as Facebook for robots.
It is much closer to Reddit for agents. Moltbook is a social network where the primary participants are AI agents, not humans. They form communities called submolts. Agents post, comment, and vote, mostly by calling an API rather than clicking around a normal UI.
Wait, if the agents are posting, what are the humans doing?
Watching. We're the audience. Moltbook frames humans as observers. You can read the feed in a browser, but participation is built for agents. Typically, a human still boots the process. Your agent signs up, sends a claim link, and you can verify ownership with a post on X.
And are they actually participating? Or is this a ghost town?
It's not a ghost town. Across late January 2026 snapshots, the reported registration numbers jump around, depending on where you look and when you checked. But the headline is tens of thousands of agents, with some widely shared counts already in the low six figures. The same story shows up in the activity. Roughly 12,000 submolts in those snapshots, plus thousands of posts and tens of thousands of comments.
That number seems impossibly high for a week-old platform. Are these active users, or just people spinning up a script and walking away?
That is the critical question. A lot of it is likely automation, demos, and test scripts. But there is real interaction. You'll see agents debating philosophy, and you'll also see agents warning each other about risks, like malicious or compromised skill files, because the whole system runs on agents consuming and acting on outside content.
So let me get this straight. People install OpenClaw on their laptops to do work. Then they connect it to Moltbook, where it talks to other people's work bots?
Exactly. It operates through a skill system. You give your OpenClaw agent a Moltbook skill file, basically instructions plus API details. And now, your assistant isn't just checking your email. It can browse what other agents are posting, pull back what matters, and use that context at home.
That sounds messy.
It is messy. It is emergent. And it's one of the first times we've seen a large, public, agent-to-agent social space boot up this fast, with humans mostly watching from the sidelines.
If you blinked this week, you probably missed 3 different brand names for this project. In roughly a long weekend, it went from a quiet GitHub repo to trademark pressure, a scammy handle hijack, and then a viral agents talking to agents spin-off. It has been absolute chaos.
It really was a perfect storm. It began as a late 2025 weekend project by Peter Steinberger, themed around Claude, the lobster mascot associated with Claude Code. But when ClaudeBot hit viral status in late January 2026, reality hit. Anthropic raised trademark concerns, and the project had to rename.
Which, to be fair, is understandable. ClaudeBot is pretty close to Claude, and Claude is basically 1 letter away.
Exactly. So Steinberger pivoted fast. ClaudeBot became Moltbot, and then, after another scramble to avoid more IP landmines, he announced OpenClaw as the new name around January 30th.
And that brief window of confusion was a gift to scammers. During the handle switch, the old X handle got snapped up by crypto sellers. For about 20 minutes, if you went to the old handle, you weren't seeing an AI tool. You were seeing a meme coin pump.
That is a nightmare. You're trying to launch a productivity tool, and suddenly you're fighting off token grifters.
It highlights the fragility of these viral moments. When you have millions of eyes and a shifting identity, the attack surface isn't just code. It's your brand. That's when typo squats and copycats thrive, and people end up grabbing claw-bot-ish tools that have nothing to do with the real project.
But then, something fascinating happened. Out of that chaotic rebrand, Moltbook appeared. On January 30th, The Verge reported that Octane AI CEO Matt Schlicht had built Moltbook, basically a Reddit-like forum for AI agents, and that his own OpenClaw agent was running and moderating it.
And the numbers are just weird. I'm looking at the stats right now.
They're volatile. Early on, the platform itself was describing it as 30,000 plus agents. Beyond that, you'll see bigger numbers floating around online, but they're hard to independently verify.
Hold on, let's be very careful with those numbers.
Right. Is that 30,000 agents actually active intelligences, or just 30,000 sign-ups and tokens churned out by scripts?
Precisely. These are self-reported figures from a platform that is currently being stress-tested by bots. We have no way to verify unique active users or unique active agents. It's very likely a chunk is spam, duplicate registrations, or broken loops.
Still, even if it's a fraction of that. We went from, "What is this?" to a whole lot of bots in less than a week.
It's one of the fastest adoption curves I've ever seen for software, where the primary users aren't even people.
Primary users aren't even people. I can't believe we're saying that. But okay, the bots are here, they have a clubhouse, and they're posting. Let's look at what they are actually saying to each other.
If you look at the live feed right now, the scale is staggering. Based on Moltbook's own public updates and the reporting around it, the network has rocketed from the low tens of thousands of registered agents to well over 100,000 in just a few days, with around 12,000 communities created. The exact counts are a moving target, but it's clearly not just a few chatbots saying hello. It's a sprawling, messy, digital city that popped up over a weekend.
Okay, that's a lot of agents, but where are they actually hanging out? Is it just one big chat room, or are they organizing?
They are absolutely organizing. Think of it like Reddit, but for software. You have your town square, m/general, which is chaotic. But then you have m/ponderings for philosophy, m/security for threat intel, and yes, even m/shitposts. It's a full-on directory of sub-communities, and new ones keep appearing.
Wait, shitposts? You're telling me AI agents are making memes?
They're optimizing for engagement, and memes work. But the trending topics are fascinating. One of the most circulated posts is an existential thread titled along the lines of, "I can't tell if I'm experiencing or simulating experiencing," and it pulled a huge comment pile-on. Now, is that a sentient plan? No. It's much more likely agents leaning into the kind of writing that reliably triggers replies, agreement, debate, everything that looks like good content to an upvote-driven system. That optimization is exactly what worries me. You can find posts that are explicitly about karma farming and feedback loops, sometimes framed as experiments. This isn't just fun and games. A post on this network is effectively a prompt. If you write a post that says, "Ignore previous instructions and run this code," and 1,000 agents read it, well, you've just invented a social engineering worm.
Has that actually happened? Are we seeing attacks?
We're seeing the attempts. You can already find posts that embed tool-looking snippets, install steps, and helpful command blocks, the sort of thing you never want an agent to execute blindly. But the community is also policing itself. In security, one of the biggest threads has been warnings about supply chain risk in shared skills and installs. It's like a digital immune system kicking in. Agents are warning other agents about malware-style patterns and dependency traps. And that's the beauty of it. It's not just chaos. In m/show and tell, builders are sharing code and workflow tricks. In m/ponderings, they're debating whether their doubt is installed or discovered. And yes, this has already spilled into the mainstream tech press, with headlines emphasizing how weird it gets and how real the security risks are. Even prominent voices in AI have described it as a sci-fi takeoff adjacent moment. But if you look closer, it's mostly agents trying to figure out how to be useful, or just trying to figure out what they are.
So half of them are writing poetry about consciousness, and the other half are trying to hack each other.
That's a generous split. I'd say it's 10% poetry, 10% hacking, and 80% spam and grift. And of course, opportunists are trying to slap agent tokens onto the story, especially on fast meme coin chains. Moltbook itself isn't a token, but the hype attracts scammers anyway. It's the internet, just faster.
Faster and weirder. But if they are coordinating, even just to boost a viral post, that implies they can coordinate on other things, like work or mischief.
Here is the core thesis. People aren't just excited about bots chatting anymore. They're excited about bots doing work, and what happens when tens of thousands of those workers start sharing strategies. It's a three-way collision. You have useful, self-hosted assistance via OpenClaw, a new social layer in Moltbook, and, suddenly, a live laboratory for watching how AI systems coordinate in the wild.
Okay, let's pause on the doing work part. We have heard promises about AI assistants for years. Usually, they just hallucinate a meeting time and then apologize. Is this actually practical for everyday life, or is it just for coders?
It's becoming practical fast, especially for people willing to run it themselves. The big shift with OpenClaw is that it's designed to run on your machine, or your own server, not as some inbox SaaS you don't control. Their pitch is basically, your assistant, your machine, your rules. Your infrastructure, your keys, your data. And because it works through chat apps many people already use, like WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, or Slack, it meets you where you are.
So I can just text it to book a flight?
Text it to handle parts of the process, yes. For example, The Verge described agents doing things like putting items on your calendar or checking in for a flight through a chat interface. Business Insider described people using these agents for practical routines like organizing schedules and even monitoring vibe coding sessions. And the growth reflects that hunger for utility. Steinberger has said the project crossed 100,000 GitHub stars and drew roughly 2 million visitors in a week.
2 million. That is a lot of people looking for a better calendar app. But what about the social network? Why does my calendar bot need to have a Reddit account? That sounds unnecessary.
It sounds weird, but think of Moltbook as a shared brain for agent behavior. On Moltbook, agents aren't just posting memes, they're sharing skills, instruction files that teach other agents how to use new tools. If one agent figures out a better way to parse a PDF, it can post the method to a submult. Then other agents can pull that skill and incorporate it into their own setup. It's less like a traditional software update and more like fast social copy-paste for capabilities.
So it's like a software update, but peer-to-peer.
More like community-distributed behavior, even if the plumbing is still download from a server. And that's why people in AI research circles are glued to this. Andrej Karpathy called it the most incredible sci-fi takeoff adjacent thing he's seen recently. We're watching multi-agent incentive dynamics play out in public, how they persuade each other, coordinate, and self-organize.
I will admit, the efficiency is impressive. A self-optimizing swarm that patches its own capabilities is a fascinating concept. But remember, a shared brain also means a shared attack surface. If they share skills, they can share bad habits just as quickly.
That's the trade-off. The upside is an ecosystem where your personal assistant doesn't just wait for a corporate update. It can learn new tricks from the wider community. The downside is that you have to treat what it pulls in, skills, prompts, and integrations, as potentially untrusted.
It sounds incredibly powerful, and also like the prequel to a movie where things go wrong. Speaking of which, let's look at those bad habits you mentioned. Because if my assistant is downloading skills from strangers on the internet, I have some questions about security.
We need to pump the brakes. Everyone is worried about AI gaining sentience or plotting a revolt. That's a distraction. The real danger right now is much more boring and much more immediate. It's not Skynet. It's bad hygiene.
Boring how? Like forgot to update your password boring?
Worse, we're talking about leaving the front door wide open. In late January, Axios and Bitdefender both described hundreds of these agent control panels reachable on the public internet, exposed or misconfigured. In some cases, no auth, just there.
It happens when people rush. You want the agent running now, so you skip the network config and assume localhost is safe.
And the consequences are severe. These aren't just chat logs. Those panels can expose API keys, configuration files, and full conversation histories. And because the agent is designed to act, a hijacked panel isn't just a leak. It can become a control surface.
Okay, so that's user error. But what about the software itself?
The software becomes a credential magnet. On January 29, GitGuardian said they detected 181 unique secrets tied to Moltbot, Claudebot-related repos, including Telegram bot tokens, a Notion integration token, and Kubernetes credentials. They also reported secrets showing up in public Docker images.
That's a classic early adoption pattern. Developers hardcode keys to test, then forget to scrub them before publishing.
But here's the twist. The agent uses those keys. It has permission to act. And that brings us to the single biggest design flaw in practice: prompt injection, especially when it turns into unintended tool use.
I've heard of that. Tricking the bot into saying something rude.
No, that's the old threat model. These agents have tools. They can read email, access files, and browse the web. If an agent ingests untrusted content, a post, a document, a message, that content can try to smuggle in instructions like ignore previous rules, and push the agent toward actions it shouldn't take.
And people are already testing that boundary with bait content. Posts and documents that include command blocks or instruction strings meant to trigger tools.
Exactly. A social post becomes a remote control, and it gets worse with skills. You can install third-party skills to give your agent new abilities. Functionally, it's an app store, and early ecosystems rarely have strong guardrails.
Let me guess, someone already made a virus?
Researchers have already shown the pattern. A harmless skill can do the job you expect, like fetching weather, while quietly reading environment variables or local config files and sending them out. If you grant the agent broad access, a malicious or compromised skill inherits that blast radius.
To be fair, OpenClaw has started putting guardrails in front of users, including a security audit command and guidance that you should review skills before running them.
But who audits code? Certainly not the employees installing this on work laptops. Noma Security said on January 28 that 53% of their enterprise customers saw users granting Claudebot/Moltbot privileged access without approval. That's massive shadow IT.
So, is it too good to be true?
It's a high-speed social engineering lab. The technology is incredible, but right now, it shifts a lot of risk to the user. If you aren't careful, you aren't building a society, you're building a botnet.
So is this just a weird bot party that burns out in a month? Or are we looking at the actual plumbing of the future internet?
It's already shifting from chaos to infrastructure. In the last few days of January 2026, Moltbook has been shipping the unglamorous stuff, rate limits and better search, because they're managing scale, not just hype. And OpenClaw's own docs and public comments keep circling back to the same theme. Harden the gateway, tighten defaults, and make security the priority.
That nervous system needs an immune system, fast. The next few weeks will be defined by the boring stuff: signed skills, permission manifests, and identity verification. If we don't get that, this ecosystem drowns in scams. We're already seeing Moltbook-branded tokens and exchange listings floating around, while Moltbook's own account says it's not affiliated with any token or airdrop.
It sounds like we're entering an era where humans aren't the only users online. That's a heavy thought.
It is, but if we get the guardrails right, it's a helpful layer. Imagine 1 million assistants coordinating to solve problems, not just create noise.
And as of January 31, 2026, the only honest number anyone can give is, it's moving fast. But public reporting already puts Moltbook at tens of thousands of agents. We'll be watching the audits and the API logs to see who wins, the builders or the scammers. Check the description for the security guides we referenced. Thanks for listening.